The great meeting hall on Arcturus Prime buzzed with the voices of 100 different alien species. Representatives from across the galaxy had come to discuss the most important matters of their time. The massive dome overhead showed the stars beyond, reminding everyone of the vast space they all shared. Ambassador stood at the center of the hall. His green skin gleamed under the bright lights, and his 4 arms moved as he spoke. He belonged to the hegemony, the most powerful military force in the galaxy. Today, he had exciting news to share. Fellow council members, began, his voice carrying across the silent hall. We have found something wonderful, a new star system with a planet full of resources we need. The system is called Sol, and the planet is blue and green, covered in water and land perfect for our colonies. The other aliens listened carefully. New planets meant new homes, new materials, and new opportunities for trade, but then continued with something that made many of them uncomfortable. There is one small problem, he said, waving one of his hands dismissively. The planet has life on it, intelligent life. They call themselves humans. A ripple of concern went through the crowd. The Galactic Council had rules about dealing with intelligent species. You could not just take their home planet away from them, but smiled in a way that showed he had already thought about this. Do not worry, he said. These humans are very primitive. They have not even left their own star system yet. Their weapons are basic chemical explosives and simple energy devices. They pose no threat to any of us. Admiral stepped forward from the hegemony group. He was even larger than, with thick armor covering his body and scars from many battles. His reputation as a military leader was known throughout the galaxy. The humans have no shields, announced. No plasma weapons, no faster-than-light travel. Their biggest ships barely leave their planet's atmosphere. We could defeat their entire military in one day. Many of the council members nodded. It seemed like a simple matter. If the humans were so weak, perhaps relocating them to another world would be easy. The hegemony had done this before with other primitive species. But then something unexpected happened. A signal came through the communication system, weak and filled with static. The technicians worked quickly to clean up the transmission. When they succeeded, everyone in the hall fell silent. The signal came from an ancient quantum crystal, the kind used by the precursors. The precursors were a legendary race that had disappeared thousands of years ago. They had been the most advanced civilization the galaxy had ever known. Finding any message from them was like discovering treasure. The crystal projected a hologram of a dying precursor. Its body was thin and weak, but its eyes held an intelligence that made everyone in the hall feel small. When it spoke, its voice carried the weight of ages. To whoever finds this message, the precursor began, we are the last of our kind. Our time has ended, but we leave you this warning. We have studied many species across time and space. Most follow patterns we understand, but there is one species that is different, one species that you must never provoke. The hall remained completely silent. Every alien present leaned forward to hear better. They call themselves humans. They live on a blue planet in a yellow star system. They seem weak, but this is an illusion. They possess something that no other intelligent species has ever developed to the same degree. The hologram flickered, showing the precursor was struggling to continue. They remember everything, every hurt, every loss, every injustice, and when they are wronged, they do not simply fight back. They hunt. They will follow their prey across the galaxy and through time itself. They will never stop, never give up, never forgive. The precursor's image grew fainter, but its words became more urgent. Do not assault the humanity. Do not take their world. Do not harm their people, because if you do, they will hunt you forever. They will find you wherever you hide. They will make you pay for what you have done. This is not a threat. This is a promise written in the nature of their species. The message ended, and the crystal crumbled to dust. For a long moment, Nobody in the hall spoke. The weight of the precursor's words hung in the air like a physical presence. These were the beings who had built cities that spanned solar systems, who had created technology that still seemed like magic. If they were afraid of humans, perhaps everyone else should be too. But Admiral broke the silence with laughter. "You want us to be afraid of primitives who barely understand fire?" he asked the council. The precursors were powerful, yes, but they were also paranoid. They saw threats everywhere. That is probably why they are extinct now. Nodded in agreement. "We have studied these humans carefully. They fight among themselves constantly. They waste their resources on conflicts that solve nothing. They are divided into hundreds of separate nations that can barely cooperate on the simplest tasks." Besides, added, what the precursor described is impossible. No species can maintain anger and purpose for the time it would take to hunt enemies across the galaxy. Emotions fade. People forget. They move on with their lives. Other council members began to nod. The hegemony's arguments made sense. The humans did seem primitive compared to the great civilizations of the galaxy. Their technology was thousands of years behind. Their social structures were chaotic. The idea that they could threaten anyone who possessed faster-than-light travel seemed absurd. "The Sol system has resources worth more than 50 colony worlds," said. "Rare metals, perfect atmosphere, fresh water, fertile ground. We would be fools to let superstition keep us from claiming it." The vote was held within the hour. Most species abstained, unwilling to take sides in what the hegemony claimed was an internal military matter. But enough voted in favor to give the hegemony permission to proceed. As the council members filed out of the hall, few noticed the small group of very old aliens who had remained silent throughout the debate. They were among the few species old enough to remember when the precursors had been alive. They had seen what happened when their warnings were ignored. Admiral spent the next 3 days preparing his fleet for the invasion of Earth. He selected his best ships and most experienced crews. The plan was simple: disable the humans' primitive defenses, land occupation forces, and relocate the population to designated areas. It would be quick, clean, and profitable. He had no idea that he was about to learn why the precursors had been so afraid. The morning started like any other Tuesday on Earth. People went to work, children played in parks, and traffic moved slowly through busy city streets. Nobody looked up at the sky and expected death to fall from space. Admiral watched from his command ship as his fleet took positions around the small blue planet. 300 warships hung in space like metal predators, their weapons charged and ready. The humans below had no idea what was coming. "Sir, their primitive satellites are detecting us," reported his communications officer. "Should we disable them?" Waved a dismissive hand. "Let them see us. Let them know how hopeless their situation is. Perhaps they will surrender quickly." Down on Earth, space agencies around the world scrambled to understand what they were seeing. The objects were too big to be asteroids, too regular to be natural, and they were clearly artificial. Within minutes, every major government knew that Earth was no longer alone in the universe. President Martinez of the American Federation called an emergency session with other world leaders. In a secure bunker beneath Geneva, the most powerful people on Earth stared at screens showing the alien fleet. "How many ships?" asked Prime Minister of the Asian Alliance. "Our best count is 300, replied General, head of Earth's United Defense Force. "Each one is larger than our biggest naval vessels. We are trying to establish communication." "What do our weapons look like against theirs?" President Martinez asked. General's face was grim. "Our nuclear missiles might scratch their paint. Our fighter jets would be like paper airplanes against eagles. We have nothing that can hurt them." The communication attempt lasted exactly 17 minutes. A harsh alien voice spoke in broken English over every radio and television frequency on the planet. "Humans of Earth," the voice said, You are now subjects of the hegemony. Surrender your weapons and prepare for relocation. Resistance will result in the destruction of your cities. You have 1 hour to comply." President Martinez stood up straight and spoke into the microphone, connected to every broadcast system on Earth. "To whoever you are up there," she said clearly, "Earth is our home. We will not surrender it. We will not be relocated like cattle. If you want our planet, you will have to fight for it." Admiral heard the transmission and shook his head in amazement. These primitives actually thought they could fight the most powerful military force in the galaxy. "Very well," he said to his weapons officer. "Show them what real power looks like. Target their major population centers. Make it quick." The bombardment began at exactly noon, Greenwich Mean Time. Plasma bolts fell from space like artificial lightning. Each one carried enough energy to vaporize a city block. The first strikes hit New York, London, Beijing, Tokyo, and Mumbai simultaneously. The explosions were so bright they could be seen from space, turning concrete and steel into clouds of glowing gas. But the hegemony was not trying to kill everyone quickly, wanted the humans to understand their helplessness. The bombardment moved slowly across the planet, giving people time to see what was happening to their neighbors before their own turn came. Los Angeles became a crater of melted glass. Moscow simply disappeared in a ball of white fire. Cairo, Berlin, Sydney. One by one, the great cities of humanity were erased from existence. The humans tried to fight back. Fighter jets rose from military bases around the world, their missiles streaking toward the alien ships. The weapons exploded harmlessly against energy shields that the humans could not even see. Surface-to-air missiles, artillery shells, even nuclear warheads, nothing the humans fired had any effect at all. Dr. Sarah had been in her laboratory at the University of Colorado when the bombardment started. She was a quantum physicist who had spent her career studying the theoretical possibilities of faster-than-light travel. Now, she watched the death of civilization through her laboratory windows. Her assistant ran into the lab with tears streaming down his face. "Doctor, they hit Denver. The whole city is gone. My family was there." Sarah felt something cold settle in her chest. Not fear, she was beyond fear now. It was something else, something that humans had carried in their hearts since their ancestors first picked up rocks to fight predators. "Help me get the emergency transmitter online," she said quietly. "I need to send a message." "To who? The government's gone. The military is gone. There's nobody left to coordinate resistance." "There are millions of us still alive," Sarah replied, her hands working steadily at the equipment. "And humans have been fighting impossible odds since we lived in caves." While Sarah worked, the bombardment continued. Hegemony ground troops began landing in the ruins of major cities. They established control points and began cataloging the planet's resources. According to their estimates, 90% of human civilization had been destroyed in the first 6 hours. Admiral sent his report to the Galactic Council that evening. "The human has been successfully," he wrote. "Resistance was minimal and ineffective. Estimated casualties are in the billions. Surviving population is scattered and demoralized. Resource extraction can begin immediately. The operation was a complete success." But in a hidden facility deep in the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Sarah finished setting up her quantum communication array. The device used principles of quantum entanglement to send messages instantaneously across any distance. It was experimental technology that she had been working on for years, hoping to one day communicate with space colonies that did not yet exist. Now she would use it for something else entirely. Her message went out on every frequency that human technology could reach. It found survivors in bunkers, caves, hidden military facilities, and refugee camps scattered across the planet. Everywhere that humans still lived, they heard her voice. "My fellow humans," Sarah began, her voice steady despite the tears on her face. "They think they have won. They think that by destroying our cities and killing our people, they have broken our spirit. They believe that we will accept defeat and quietly disappear into the footnotes of galactic history. She paused, looking at the photograph on her desk showing her daughter and granddaughter in Denver, the city that no longer existed. They have made a mistake, a terrible, fatal mistake. They do not understand what they have done. They think that by hurting us they have won, but they have only taught us who our enemies are. Her voice grew harder, carrying something that would have made the ancient precursors nod with recognition. We remember every face in every photograph. We remember every name of every person they murdered today. We remember every city they turned to glass, every life they stole, every dream they destroyed. And we will make sure that they remember too. Around the planet, in hidden places where humans gathered in the darkness, people listened to her words and felt something stirring in their hearts. "This is not over," Sarah continued. "This is barely the beginning. They wanted to take our world, but now they will learn what it means to be hunted by a species that never forgets and never forgives." The message ended, but its echo would ring across the galaxy for generations to come. Admiral never heard Dr. Sarah's transmission. He was too busy celebrating his victory to notice the small quantum signals bouncing between the ruins of Earth. He would learn about them later. 6 months after the bombardment, Admiral received a report that made him frown. Supply convoy Delta 7 had failed to arrive at the Jupiter mining station. The convoy consisted of 5 cargo ships and 2 escort vessels, all equipped with the latest hegemony technology. "Perhaps they had engine trouble," suggested his aide. "These outer system runs can be difficult." Nodded absently. Space was vast and dangerous, even with advanced technology. Ships sometimes disappeared due to mechanical failures or navigation errors. Still, 7 ships vanishing together seemed unusual. 3 weeks later, Convoy Beta 4 disappeared near Mars. Then Convoy Gamma 2 vanished somewhere between Saturn and Titan. Each time, there were no distress signals, no wreckage, and no survivors. The ships simply stopped existing. "Sir," reported his intelligence officer, "our mining operations are beginning to suffer. The crews are getting nervous about these disappearances." "Double the escort ships on each convoy," ordered, "and increase sensor sweeps of the outer system. There must be some natural phenomenon we have not detected." But the answer came in a way he never expected. The patrol ship HSV Retribution was conducting a routine sweep near Pluto when sensors detected a large object drifting in space. As they approached, the crew realized it was the wreckage of HSV Devastator, one of their own destroyers that had disappeared 2 weeks earlier. "Sir, you need to see this," the ship's captain reported to over the communication link. His voice carried a note of fear that the admiral had never heard from a hegemony officer before. The visual feed showed the destroyer's hull, twisted and broken, but still recognizable. Plasma burns covered the metal surface, showing that it had been in a fierce battle. But what made the captain's voice shake was not the damage to the ship. Burned into the hull in crude but readable letters were words in the human language. "You hurt our children." Admiral stared at the message for a long time. The humans were supposed to be broken, scattered, and helpless. Their technology was primitive, their military destroyed, their cities turned to glass. How could they possibly have built ships capable of destroying a hegemony destroyer? "Scan for any signs of human vessels in the area," he ordered. "Sir, we have been scanning continuously," replied the captain. "There is nothing here except wreckage and empty space." But empty space was exactly where the humans had learned to hide. In the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, hidden inside a hollowed-out rock the size of a small moon, Dr. Sarah watched the displays showing the patrol ship examining their handiwork. Around her, dozens of other survivors worked at control stations built from salvaged alien technology and human ingenuity. They found the Devastator, reported, now serving as her communications officer. In 6 months, his hair had turned completely gray, but his eyes burned with the same cold fire that had kept them all alive. "Good," Sarah replied. "Make sure they see the message clearly. I want them to start understanding." The facility around them looked like something from a science fiction movie, but it had been built with desperate human hands and alien technology scavenged from crashed ships. When the bombardment ended, small groups of survivors had begun the dangerous work of exploring the wreckage of downed hegemony vessels. The aliens had been careless. They assumed that primitive humans could never understand their advanced technology, but humans had always been good at learning from their enemies. They took apart alien computers, studied alien weapons, and figured out how alien engines worked. "Doctor, the Phoenix is ready for its next mission," announced Captain, formerly of the Earth Defense Force. He had been in an underground military bunker when the bombardment hit. Now he commanded one of humanity's first starships. The Phoenix looked nothing like the graceful vessels shown in old Earth movies. It was ugly, angular, and built from pieces of a dozen different alien ships welded together with human steel. But it could travel faster than light, and its weapons could punch through hegemony shields. "What is the target?" Sarah asked. "Supply convoy heading to the Neptune gas mining facility. 3 cargo ships, 1 escort destroyer. Intelligence suggests they are carrying quantum processors needed for their communication network." Sarah nodded. The human strategy was simple but effective. They did not try to fight the entire hegemony fleet at once. Instead, they picked off isolated targets, learned from each engagement, and disappeared before reinforcements could arrive. "Remember the mission parameters," Sarah told. "Disable the ships if possible. We need their technology, but make sure the message is clear. Take no prisoners unless they surrender immediately." Saluted and left for his ship. Through the observation windows, Sarah watched the Phoenix emerge from its hidden hangar and disappear into faster-than-light travel. The battle near Neptune lasted exactly 14 minutes. The convoy's escort ship detected the Phoenix just before it opened fire. The hegemony captain had time to send a single distress signal before his shields collapsed under concentrated plasma fire. The cargo ships tried to run, but human vessels had become frighteningly fast. When Admiral received the report, he felt something that hegemony officers rarely experienced: genuine concern. The attack showed tactical sophistication that primitive humans should not have possessed. The Phoenix had appeared from an impossible angle, struck with overwhelming force, and vanished before the nearest patrol ship could respond. But the most disturbing part was what the humans had done to the crews. "They gave the survivors a choice," reported the intelligence officer, reading from the patrol ship's report. "Surrender and be taken prisoner, or try to fight and be killed. Most chose surrender." "Where are the prisoners now?" "Unknown, sir. The humans took them when they left." Paced his command deck, thinking furiously. Taking prisoners suggested that the humans wanted information, which meant they were planning larger operations. But it also showed a level of military discipline that contradicted everything the hegemony knew about human nature. "Sir, there is something else," the intelligence officer continued reluctantly. "The human ship sent a transmission before it left, a message addressed specifically to you." The recording showed the interior of the Phoenix's bridge. The human captain stood before the camera, his face showing the same cold determination that had appeared in the eyes of survivors across the ruined Earth. "Admiral," the captain said calmly, "my name is, before your people murdered my world, I was responsible for protecting human colonies in space. I was not very good at my job. I failed to save the people who depended on me." The captain paused, and something terrible entered his expression. "But I am very good at hunting, and now I have new ships, better weapons, and all the time in the universe to practice. Every human who died on Earth had a name, a family, and dreams for the future. We remember all of them, and we will make sure you remember them too. The transmission ended with coordinates, the location where the convoy's wreckage could be found. When the patrol ship arrived at those coordinates 3 days later, they found the cargo vessels arranged in a perfect line, their hulls undamaged but their crews gone. Burned into the side of each ship was a human name followed by a date. Sarah Martinez, age 6, died March 15th. Michael, age 34, died March 15th. Lisa, age 42, died March 15th. Thousands of names, thousands of dates, all the same day, the day of the bombardment. Admiral realized that the humans were not simply fighting a war. They were conducting a memorial service, one dead hegemony soldier at a time. In the weeks that followed, more convoys disappeared. Each attack was different, showing that the humans were learning and adapting with frightening speed. Sometimes they used overwhelming firepower. Sometimes they used stealth and ambush tactics. Sometimes they simply appeared, delivered their message, and left without firing a shot. But they always left the names. The psychological effect on hegemony crews was devastating. These soldiers had conquered dozens of worlds and fought countless battles, but they had never faced an enemy that personalized every death. Each burned name on each destroyed ship was a reminder that somewhere in the darkness, humans were watching, waiting, and remembering. "Sir, I am receiving reports of declining morale throughout the fleet," reported aide. "Some crews are requesting transfers away from the Sol system." Admiral looked out at the stars and felt something he had not experienced since childhood, the fear of being hunted. "Send a message to the Galactic Council," he ordered. "Request immediate reinforcements, and find me everything we can learn about human psychology and warfare." He was beginning to understand why the precursors had been afraid. But it was already too late to stop what was coming. 3 years after the bombardment of Earth, the hegemony controlled less than half of what they had originally claimed in the Sol system. The humans had not defeated them in open battle. They had simply made it too dangerous and expensive to maintain most of their positions. Admiral stood in his command center, staring at the tactical display that showed the current situation. Red markers indicated confirmed human vessels. Yellow markers showed possible human activity. Blue markers represented the safe zones where hegemony ships could operate without fear of attack. There were very few blue markers left. "Report," he ordered his intelligence officer, a young hegemony soldier whose nervous habits had grown worse each month. "Sir, we have lost contact with mining station Gamma 7 near Titan. The last transmission indicated they were investigating unusual sensor readings. That was 18 hours ago. Send a patrol squadron to investigate." "Sir, with respect, Squadron Leader Al has requested that patrol missions be conducted by full battle groups. He says that single squadrons are, quote, just feeding the humans more ships to steal." Turned from the display. In 3 years, he had watched his confident, professional military force become a collection of nervous, paranoid soldiers who jumped at shadows. The humans had done something that no enemy had ever managed. They had made hegemony warriors afraid. What about the Outer Rim colonies? Are they still reporting those encounters? The intelligence officer checked his. "Yes, sir. Hegemony Colony 12 reported another incident yesterday. A human vessel appeared at the edge of their sensor range, observed them for 6 hours, then left without making contact." "Did they attack?" "No, sir, they never attack the colonies directly, they just watch." Nodded grimly. That was the most disturbing part of human tactics. They did not always strike immediately. Sometimes they simply appeared, studied their targets, and vanished again. Colony administrators and ship captains never knew if they were being for intelligence gathering or if the humans were simply psychological warfare. The waiting was destroying hegemony morale faster than direct attacks would have. "Sir, incoming transmission from Colony 15, announced the communications officer. Emergency priority." The hologram showed Commander, a veteran officer who had supervised the colonization of 6 different worlds. His normally steady demeanor was cracking. "Admiral, we have a problem. The humans are back." "Are they attacking your defenses?" "No, sir, they are." Paused, struggling to find the right words. "They are gardening." Blinked. "Repeat that, Commander." "Sir, 3 human vessels appeared in our system this morning. Instead of attacking our installations, they went to the 3rd planet. The one we determined was uninhabitable due to atmospheric toxins. They have been there for 8 hours, and our long-range sensors show they are somehow cleaning the atmosphere and planting vegetation." "That makes no tactical sense. Why would they waste resources on a dead planet?" "Sir, we intercepted one of their communications. The planet's original name was Venus. It was part of their home star system before the bombardment." The implications hit like a physical blow. The humans were not just fighting a military campaign. They were reclaiming their entire star system, piece by piece, and transforming it back into what it had been before the hegemony arrived. "Are they threatening your colony?" "Not directly, sir, but they sent us a message." His voice dropped to almost a whisper. "They said they know the names and faces of every colonist on our world. They know where we came from, who our families are, what ships brought us here. They said they are not angry with us personally, but that this system belongs to humanity now." "What are your defense capabilities?" "Sir, I have 2 patrol ships and a garrison of 300 soldiers. The human ships they are using technology we do not recognize. Our weapons specialists believe they have been reverse engineering our equipment for 3 years and improving it." Felt the weight of command pressing down on him. Every decision had become a choice between bad options and worse ones. He could send reinforcements to Colony 15, but that would weaken defenses elsewhere. He could order an attack on the human ships, but recent battles suggested that would only result in more losses. "Maintain defensive positions," he finally ordered. "Do not engage unless directly attacked. Report any changes immediately." After the transmission ended, turned to his staff. "How many colonies have reported similar encounters?" 17, sir. The humans seem to have detailed intelligence about all our outer rim positions." That intelligence had come at a terrible cost. Over the past 3 years, the humans had captured dozens of hegemony personnel. Unlike most species, they did not simply execute their prisoners or hold them for ransom. Instead, they interviewed them extensively, learning everything about hegemony operations, technology, and psychology. Some prisoners were eventually released, but they came back changed. They spoke of human facilities hidden throughout the asteroid belt, of captured hegemony technology being rebuilt into impossible new configurations, of human engineers who worked 20-hour days while reciting the names of their dead. But most disturbing were the stories about human interrogation techniques. The humans did not use torture or drugs. Instead, they simply showed prisoners the records of what had happened to Earth. Videos of the bombardment, photographs of the destroyed cities, recordings of the final transmissions from people who knew they were about to die. Then they asked, very politely, for information about hegemony operations. Most prisoners cooperated. "Sir," interrupted his communications officer, "priority transmission from Hegemony High Command." The hologram that appeared showed Fleet Admiral Ev, one of the highest-ranking military officers in the galaxy. His expression was not encouraging. "Admiral, I am reading your reports about the human situation with growing concern. Explain to me how a primitive species that we nearly exterminated 3 years ago is now controlling territory that took us months to conquer." Straightened. "Sir, the humans have proven more adaptable than our intelligence reports suggested. They have reverse-engineered our technology and developed new tactics that our standard military doctrine was not designed to counter. Our intelligence reports suggested they were divided, emotional, and incapable of long-term strategic thinking. Those reports were incorrect, sir. The humans appear to be highly capable of long-term planning. They have spent 3 years building infrastructure, gathering intelligence, and preparing for what our analysts believe will be a major offensive against our core positions. What do you recommend? Had been dreading this question. Sir, I believe we should consider withdrawing from the Sol system entirely and establishing a defensive perimeter around our nearest core worlds. The silence that followed stretched for nearly a minute. When Fleet Admiral Eth finally spoke, his voice carried disbelief and anger. You want to retreat from primitives who were using chemical rockets when we arrived. Sir, they are no longer using chemical rockets. Our latest intelligence suggests they have developed faster-than-light technology that surpasses our own capabilities in some areas. More importantly, they have proven that they will never stop fighting us. Every engagement costs us more resources than we can afford to lose. Admiral, the hegemony does not retreat from defeated enemies. With respect, sir, I do not believe the humans are defeated. I believe we have made them very, very angry. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving staring at an empty hologram projector. He knew that his request for withdrawal would be. The hegemony's political structure could not accept the idea of retreating from a species they had supposedly conquered. But as he looked at the tactical display showing the shrinking blue zones where his ships could operate safely, Admiral wondered if the precursor's warning had been less about human military capabilities and more about human psychology. The humans did not fight like any other species he had encountered. Most civilizations sought to minimize casualties and end conflicts quickly. The humans seemed willing to accept terrible losses in pursuit of goals that extended far beyond any reasonable definition of victory. They were not trying to win a war. They were trying to eliminate everyone who had participated in the bombardment of their world, no matter how long it took or how much it cost them. And they were succeeding. Outside his ship, sensors detected the faint signature of a human vessel at the very edge of detection range. It had been there for 3 days, watching, learning, waiting. Admiral no longer slept well at night. 50 years had passed since the bombardment of Earth. Admiral, now ancient and frail, stood alone on the bridge of the HSV Dominion, the last operational hegemony warship in existence. His crew had died one by one over the decades, victims of age, despair, and the slow, methodical elimination that humans called justice. The ship drifted through the empty void between galaxies, its fuel reserves nearly exhausted. Behind them lay the ruins of the hegemony empire, every world abandoned, every colony evacuated, every military installation reduced to drifting wreckage. The humans had not conquered through overwhelming force. They had simply outlasted everything the hegemony could throw at them. "Computer, status report," whispered. His voice was weak, but his mind remained sharp enough to understand the irony of his situation. He had become the last living member of a species that had once controlled a quarter of the galaxy. Life support operating at minimal power. Food reserves depleted 18 days ago. Estimated time until total system failure, 4 hours, 37 minutes. Nodded, it was fitting in a way. He would die as the humans had intended, alone, forgotten, with no one to remember his name or mourn his passing. The communication system crackled to life, startling him. After decades of running and hiding, he had assumed that no one else existed to contact him. The transmission was surprisingly clear, carrying the voice of a human woman. "Admiral of the Hegemony Vessel Dominion, this is Captain Sarah Martinez of the human ship Remembrance. Please respond." Stared at the communication panel for a long moment. The name Martinez was familiar, though he could not immediately place it. After 50 years of fleeing from human hunters, all their names had begun to blend together in his memory. "I hear you, human," he replied finally. "Have you come to finish your hunt?" "In a way, yes, but first I want to talk." On his tactical display, a ship appeared at the edge of sensor range. It was massive, easily 3 times the size of his own vessel, and it moved with the smooth grace that human ships had developed over 5 decades of constant warfare. But it made no aggressive moves, simply matching his course and speed. "You do not recognize my name," the human said. "It was not a question." "Should I?" "Sarah was my grandmother. She was the one who organized the first resistance after you destroyed our world. Martinez is the name I took when I married David Martinez, whose daughter Lisa died in the bombardment of Los Angeles." Closed his eyes. Now he remembered. The physicist who had sent that first transmission from the mountains of Earth, the woman whose voice had echoed across the ruins of human civilization and somehow created an empire from ashes. "Your grandmother was a remarkable individual," he said quietly. "I respected her determination. She died 15 years ago, natural causes, in her sleep in a bed on New Earth. She was surrounded by her children and great. She lived to see the restoration of the Sol system and the establishment of human colonies on 100 new worlds." The words hit like physical blows. While he had spent 5 decades fleeing through space, the humans had rebuilt everything they had lost and created something even greater. "Before she died," Sarah Martinez continued, "she asked me to deliver a message to you. She said she hoped that somewhere in the galaxy you were still alive, because she wanted to make sure you understood something important." "What message?" "She wanted you to know that we won." Looked around his dying ship, at the empty stations where his crew had once served, at the displays showing system failures spreading throughout the vessel like a disease. "Yes," he whispered, "you won. She also wanted you to know why we won. It was not because we were stronger or smarter or better equipped. We won because you taught us something about ourselves that we had never fully understood." "What did we teach you?" "That when someone hurts our family, we do not get angry and then get over it. We remember, we plan, we wait, and we make sure it never happens again." Through his viewport, could see the human ship more clearly now. Its hull was covered in writing, not tactical markings or identification numbers, but names. Millions of names, each one representing a human who had died in the bombardment 50 years ago. "The precursors tried to warn us," he said. "They told us not to assault humanity. They said you would hunt us forever." The precursors were wise, but they were also wrong about one thing. "What?" "They said you would be hunted forever, but forever ended today." Felt something that might have been relief. After 50 years of running, the prospect of rest seemed almost appealing. "Will you kill me quickly?" "Admiral, you are dying already. Your ship has maybe 4 hours of life support left. I am not here to kill you. I am here to witness." "Witness what?" "The end of the species that murdered Earth. You are the last of your kind, Admiral. When you die, the hegemony dies with you. My grandmother wanted someone from our family to see that moment and remember it." Understood. Even in victory, the humans were still thinking about memory, still ensuring that history would be recorded and preserved. It was what made them so different from every other species in the galaxy. "There is something I want you to know," he said to the human captain. "Near the end, when your ships were destroying our last colonies, some of my people asked me if I regretted the bombardment of your world." "What did you tell them?" "I told them that regret was irrelevant. We had done what we thought was necessary for our survival, but I was wrong." "About what?" "About survival. We thought that by destroying your cities, we were eliminating a threat to our empire. We did not understand that we were creating something much more dangerous. a species with a reason to hunt us across the galaxy and the patience to do it properly. The human ship moved closer, its massive bulk blocking out the stars, but still it made no aggressive moves. "Admiral, before you die, I want you to see something." The main screen activated, showing a view that took his breath away. It was Earth, but not the devastated world he remembered. The planet was green and blue and beautiful, covered in new cities that gleamed like jewels in the sunlight. Orbital installations surrounded the world like a protective shell, and ships of every design moved between them in carefully orchestrated patterns. "This is Earth today," Sarah Martinez said. "We rebuilt everything you destroyed, but we also built something new, a memorial. Every name of every person who died in the bombardment is carved in quantum crystal and placed in orbit around our world. They are arranged so that their light creates a constellation visible from the surface, reminding our children of the price of peace and the importance of vigilance." "It is beautiful," admitted. "My grandmother wanted you to see it because she wanted you to understand what you really accomplished. You did not destroy humanity. You taught us what we were capable of when properly motivated. You showed us that we could work together, think long-term, and achieve goals that seemed impossible." The old admiral felt tears running down his face. In trying to eliminate what they saw as a threat, the hegemony had created exactly what the precursors had warned them about: a species that would never stop, never forgive, and never forget. "The irony," he whispered, "is that if we had simply left you alone, you might never have become dangerous to anyone." "Perhaps, but we will never know now." His life support systems began failing one by one. The air grew thin and the lights dimmed, but no longer felt afraid. After 50 years of running, death seemed like a mercy. "Captain Martinez," he said with his final breath, "tell your children, tell them to remember the lesson we learned too late. Some species should be left alone." The communication went silent. On her own ship, Captain Sarah Martinez watched the last hegemony vessel go dark and begin its final drift toward the cold of empty space. Around her, her crew stood in respectful silence, not for their enemy, but for the moment when a chapter of human history finally closed. "Navigation," she said quietly, "set course for Earth. Send a message to all human colonies. The hunt is over. We are going home." As the remembrance turned toward the distant light of human space, Sarah Martinez thought about her grandmother's final words. "We do not forget. We do not forgive. But when justice is done, we do find peace." 50 years after the bombardment that was meant to destroy humanity, the last ship of the species that had ordered that bombardment drifted alone through the endless dark. And across the galaxy, on 100 worlds where humans now lived and loved and built new futures, children learned the names of the dead and promised to remember. The hegemony was extinct, but the Earth and all its children would endure forever. The hunt was over. Humanity had won.